Okay, so here we have a cover for the Kipper2k riser. I made mine perhaps a little bit deeper than some. I really wanted to cover the PIC chip, and the PIC chip is located about in this area, so in order to do that you had to make this of a certain depth, let's say. The keyboard connector is here and it faces this way, so I didn't want to just leave it completely exposed. You can see the top of it when this is installed, but it's mostly covered, and I left a slot here to pass the cord through. It works pretty well because by the time you plug a PS2 connector into that port, if you were to seal this off or just make this not make a cut in it, it has to take a pretty good bend. So this, I felt more comfortable doing this. And then we have a relief for the screw head, so it doesn't stick out. And you just, obviously we need to use a longer screw. I was able to, what's nice about the threads in the CD32 is that it's not just plastic. There's a metal tab that's got one piece of threads. It's very similar to automotive tabs, where if you take off part of the bottom of your dashboard or whatever, oftentimes you'll see plastic, but you've got metal screws, and in order to make that more sturdy, they'll just put a metal tab in there and just have one set of threads in there for you to thread a screw that is very coarse threaded, almost a wood screw. Some people call them self-tapping because of the coarseness of their screw, the threads. Anyway, so the only thing I need to point out about this also is that we have a slot here, and this is where the ribbon cable for the compact flash adapter or hard drive or whatever would come out, and that would allow us to set it on top. And also there's this piece right here. You know, if you print this object, you're going to print this object and you're going to print it like this, right? And so the layers are going to go this way, and that is the weakness of, you know, FDM, fused disposition modeling, or manufacturing. The levels in the layers, the horizontal, you can actually see them if you look closely, and that is those depend on the bonding of each layer, one on top of the other, and that is the weakest angle, you know, of the print. You know, if you were to look at this at any other angle, this piece of plastic would be pretty strong. So these tabs are in danger of breaking off. This one is not too thick of a tab, so and it's a pretty good thick area, so I wasn't as worried about this one. But this one here is quite a bit thinner, and it's like you slide it in on this side first, and then this part snaps in, and then it's the reverse to remove it. So I really needed to make this piece here a separate piece. And so when this piece is printed, it's actually going to be printed not in the orientation that you see here, but actually like this, right? So now we have the layers going this way, right? So then we go to take this piece and we glue it onto our main part here, and the layers are going this way, so it makes it a lot more stronger. I mean, this is definitely going to be a weak point right here. This little tiny area right here is going to be a weak point unless we print it in another orientation. So that was my intention there. After doing this for a very long time, I kind of know where you can expect weaknesses in the structure, and it usually means that you have to print separate pieces and then glue them together, which is fine. So alright, so here we have this, and let's put it back in the orientation in which it's going to sit on the CD32. Okay. All right. So, you know, I printed this out and got all the dimensions right, and it, you know, clips in and whatever. It's not super secure on these sides. Neither was the actual original. It pretty much mostly depended upon this screw. So I'm getting that screw hole right, making sure that we had some extra material around the screw hole, and that we actually cut it off here at the bottom to clear our keyboard pick chip that's located right here, without having to print this thing with too deep. You know, I try to just conserve materials and try to make things only as deep as or large as they need to be. Okay, so that's the part that pretty much looks like everybody else's design, and here's the part that I came up with. Of course, I did all this from scratch. So here inside, let's just lift the lid. Here inside we have the compact flash adapter, and the blue part is the compact flash, and we have the ribbon cable coming down. So we can see that our ribbon cable clears the slot that we made in the rear portion. And we have a couple different things here. We have this piece here is necessary to simply hold the lid in. So let's just move the lid down, and as you can see on this view here, we have a little bit of a protrusion here. The inside, it's basically going to have like a friction fit here. The front actually has a little bit of a lip, and that's the reason for absolutely keeping this frame, basically to hold the top in. And so you would insert this top piece at sort of an angle, you know, like this. You kind of go in like this, and then you drop the other side down into that piece right there. So let's take that back off. So that's how that works. And the compact flash, see, this is the only part that, you know, I can't predict what sort of compact flash adapter might be used. I only have the one that I have as a judge. So what might happen is when you do this, you might have to move these holes. If you were to print this out, I would at least measure them and make sure they line up. Maybe a compact flash adapter has a standard, and these holes are always in the same place. But you know, all I can tell you is that I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, you can put there, the screws that go in there are 256. The length is got to be pretty short, you know. Well, let's see, 256 screws is SAE, you know, imperial measurement of screws. It's not millimeter. You know, number 2 and the 56 pitch. So the length is going to need to be, well, let's just look at it. This part here actually has a recess to it. So let's say that the screw heads come down to here, and we need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can go as long as 7 probably. I left holes down here so you can go all the way down. Just make sure you don't get screws that are so long that they protrude out and, you know, hit the CD32. But you know, 7 millimeters. Quarter of an inch, say. Seems perfect. Yeah. So 256 by quarter inch screws to go in there. They fit pretty well. And they're strong enough. Basically, when you're inserting and ejecting this card, all the force is lateral, not vertical. And those screws are plenty to hold it in place. It seems. I mean, that's the reason why they only put 2 screws in this board, I imagine, because they didn't need any more. There is sort of a danger of pulling up or pushing down on this card too hard and stripping the screw out of the hole. You know, it's just not that strong of a connection. But, you know, it's not like we're being rough on this stuff, you know. So yeah, let's see. We have anything else interesting under there other than the fact that we have a very large hole on this piece, and that's very important because when we assemble this thing and glue it together, it's important for us to be able to disassemble it, you know, or at least remove it from the back, so that we can get the riser and the accelerator card out. So that's a huge hole, so that we can pass this whole assembly first thing you do is remove the compact flash card, because it will get caught up in this. So you just say we remove that. I don't want to, this is a grouped object, so I don't want to ungroup it, but let's just say this blue part isn't here, and so you know, this piece sticking out here. So if we take it and rotate it, the ribbon cable will allow us enough slack and whatnot, and we can rotate it and oops, we can rotate it pretty much vertical and slide it out. So it's more of a thing where you're actually taking this part here and you're kind of sliding it out from, because it's like a quarter of an inch or something before this is free to move up and down, and this also gets rotated as you move it up. So okay, so basically what it is it's in the CD32 like this. You flip the compact flash, you make it loose, you unscrew the screws, and then this pulls back, and that's why we have this wide right here, so that enables us to gosh darn it. So that enables us to move this back enough to slide it up, and then at some point you're rotating this as well to get it out, but it works fine. There isn't any problem getting the thing to remove. So what we're doing is we're gluing this piece to this piece, and we're gluing this piece to this piece, you know, to clip in there, and we're also gluing this little guy to here, and then our lid is just simply like press fit. The very last thing I wanted to show you is on my particular compact flash card adapter, I have, let's put it back into place here real quick. Get everything lined up back roughly where it goes. Okay, all right, so on my compact flash adapter, there's an LED activity indicator on the board right here, right in this spot. So I figured, you know, why not? It's not that hard to make myself a 1mm hole. So I put a 1mm hole there, and if you're looking straight down on the unit, you can see, or there's a little bit of a reflection on the plastic inside here. If I print this out in black, and I can see a little bit of a red light glowing through that hole. But if you happen to have any 1mm filament, clear, I actually sell them in my eBay store for model railroading, but you know, it's perfect. Maybe you could use some printer filament that's clear if you have it, and that's 1.75mm, just widen the hole. But the point is that we're extending the light from the board down here up through here, and you know, all we need to do is just like cut it off at the top and maybe glue it in there, and it will transmit the light, and you basically have the light up here. It works perfectly, at least with 1mm filament that I use for my model railroading hobby. It's actually transmits light very well. You can buy filament. It's the same stuff that you buy. You get those fiber optic lamps or little trinky-dink lamps that you set on a bookshelf or a side table that you turn it on and it looks like a flower or something like that. It's that stuff. It's fiber optic filament, I guess they call it, but it's not fibrous. It's actually just made of plastic. The cheap stuff anyway. Yeah, that is my finished object, and we will go assemble it now and put it on the CD32. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so here we have all our printed parts, and I brought this scale because I want to figure out, I know these are 256 screws for the compact flash, and I think we figured out that they were 1/4 inch, something in that neighborhood. Yeah, these ones that I have are not 1/4 inch, they're less. They're, what, 3/16 or, yeah, these are actually 3/16. These are 256, 3/16 length, but you can go as much as 1/4. The longer the better, I guess, you know, more threads, more structure, more contact. And the screw that goes into the back of the CD32, and I was telling you that this actually is an automotive screw. This came out of a dashboard of one of my vehicles over the years. I just collect, I never throw any screws away. Well, that's millimeters. Inches is here. So this is a, from what I can tell, it's a number 8 screw. And, you know, as far as how deep this screw has, this actually is a self-tapping screw because it has the little drill bit on the end, but so that's useless as far as, you know, grabbing something. So anything that's about 1 inch, and you can go as long as you want because, you know, the area inside the CD32 is basically wide open. I mean, I wouldn't go too crazy on it, but anyway, so that's that screw, number 8, sheet metal screw or whatever. And here I have a beveled head. You can get a pan head just as easy. This just happens to be the one that I have. All right, so let's do some finishing work on this first. This prints this way, and this bevel is, you know, a recess. So what's going to happen is the printer is going to print over empty space, and you're always going to get some goop here. A little bit of goop on there. So I'm just going to clean it out. Maybe I should use a hobby knife. Yeah, I'm just cleaning the little pieces of junk. Not too crazy. It's going to get covered up, right? Let's see, how are we on focus? So yeah, and then this just goes right in there. Back this back up and refocus. Okay, so I hope this stays in focus. Yeah, so we're good here, and it spins when we get to the end, so we're good on that. And then the only other thing, the next thing you want to do to this is we have this lock tab that we need to glue over here. So you always want to, especially if you're gluing something on it, you want to flatten it out a bit. It's good to do that anyway, and I don't spend too much time actually dusting the plastic off of here. It'll actually help to bond. You know, it gets suspended in the glue and creates more surface area. So now all we need to do here is glue this here. Before I do that, I'm just going to test fit this on here. And as I was saying before, it's going to go in like this. in this corner first and then pop in there. So, and then usually what I do is I flip this up like this and I make sure that this lip, because I have a lip down here along this. Is that in focus? I have a lip right there. So I need to make sure that gets inside here. So it's just a little bit of a wiggle required to get it in there. That's it. So we can see we have a good fit here. And we're okay over here too. But that fits pretty good. So now we're going to take this piece and glue it on here. This is CA glue. I guess maybe I could have filed the side of this as well, but I think we're okay. And then the next part we want to do is this. We want to glue this on here. But, you know, obviously we're printing down and the first layer is always ooze. There's a little bit of ooze on the first layer. So I just like to take, it's what we call when I was modeling, doing, you know, literally putting together models, flashing. We're just trying to make this a squarish or rectangular shape again, whereas it's somewhat of a little bit of a trapezoid. We don't have to go too crazy, but we do want to have some sort of a test fit here. So we're going to go like this and put the lid on the way it goes. And you can tell by the lid that where the front and the back is, and there's that little hole that I put in for the LED filament or whatever. So it's pretty important to do a test fit here and make sure we've got, and this piece here has the same thing where, you know, the very bottom layer is actually wider than the rest of the layers. Although I don't really want to mess too much with this, I think I'm going to have to, where it meets that other thin piece, just flatten this out. This is very, very common if you're considering going into 3D printing and making stuff. You've got to expect finish work. Things are not going to come out most of the time exactly how you need them. You're going to have to maybe do some sanding or filing or fitting or assembling. I prefer assembling to working the product, so I'll tend to lean toward that to avoid having to resurface the material. Okay, so I'm gonna do this off camera and then I'll come back when I've got it all sorted. But basically what I'm trying to do is make sure that this fits in here and this fits in here and that we're somewhat flush on the front. Okay, so by placing the lid on there and having it on there while I put a couple little dabs of glue on these two corners and then fitting this piece on with the lid in place, making sure that way I'm making sure that I have everything where I need it to be. So I've done that, and the only thing remaining really that we need to do is glue this on top of here like that, and then we'll be pretty much done. So first part, now that we're fairly certain at this point that this little clip is dry and strong, we're going to, yeah, watch it pop off. These things happen, but here. lift it up like I normally do. Get it in there. Pop it in there. Okay. Are we good? I think we're good. Oh, there we go. Hopefully that wasn't the sound of the clip breaking off. No, the clip's still there. Just wondering, like, where did that pop come from? Something was out of alignment. Maybe it was the PIC chip. That tends to be kind of a sore spot. It just barely fits in there. Yeah, I mean, oh, I need to tell you something really important, okay? The Kipper2k riser interferes with putting a screw in. It directly interferes with it. And I will show you that right now. And my solution at the same time. So the Kipper2k riser rises too high, and it blocks a third or almost a half of the screw hole. And you're either faced with coming in at a downward angle, which, I mean, come on. But there aren't any traces or components close by here, so I recommend actually filing that down. You can come up about, I'd say about halfway to the chip, it looks like. Looks like it came down about halfway from the edge down toward the chip. And this works fine. I haven't disturbed any of the trace. There's no traces there on any side of the board or in the middle if they're... this is probably just a two-sided board, but anyway, so that's required for any of these covers really to fit properly. You know, and I think that maybe some of the designs have the screw hole mounted up a little higher so you can come down at an angle when you're putting the screw in, but that's not a good idea. I mean, just not in my opinion anyway. So you've got to feel the bottoms in there and pop it in there. Okay. All right. But now that if you've removed the material from the riser carefully, you can thread this right in and bammo. And the key here is to not tighten it too much. I could have made this top piece, this top plane of this cover thicker, and that would have enabled me to get this screw tighter, because if I tighten the screw too much, this just jumps over the bevel, and you know, but it's fine the way it is. It stays on there really well. I'm happy with it. So, and you can see that we have flexibility, and we can see our ribbon cable passed through the back of the CD32 in that slot. And we can also see this where, you know, if we have this up here like this, we can slide it through. And again, we have that issue of the bottom layer sticking out a little more than we want it to. This is going to be removed really quick. It's a small area and easy to get leverage. Yeah, so there we go. Nice and easy. So we're just going to glue that right there. Let's see. Yes. So another thing that will happen when you're printing is you get curling. So another part of finish work that I need to do is I need to get this bottom part flat. It's not very difficult if you have some sandpaper. You just put the sandpaper flat on a surface and you just run this up and down and you get a straight edge and just see. But right now, with a straight edge, hopefully you can see this. I'd have to get some light behind it effectively in order for you to see it. Let's see if we can do this. You can see that there's a gap there. Yeah. So in other words, when I put this down on my thing, it's actually sticking up slightly, a couple millimeters. So especially need to get this part back here perfectly flat, or as flat as I can go. So I'm just going to go into the garage and scrape this up and down on some sandpaper, make a little bit of a mess until I got a pretty flat surface. Okay, so I guess I could give you a little bit of a demonstration here. So I've already done this, but basically when you're printing something that is wide on the printer, as your material cools on the print bed, the outer areas cool faster than the inner areas, just because the outer areas have more surface area in contact with the air. So that causes the outside areas to cool faster, and it causes them to curl very slightly. If you have your printer set up just right, you're always going to get some curling. There's some on the bracket I have on the CD32, but it's not really noticeable because it doesn't have to sit flat down. But this one we need to glue this onto our cover. So now let's just see. I've filed this or sanded this down enough where we can see, hopefully you can see where normally this is shiny, and the only shiny parts remaining are the corners. There's a little bit of a shiny part on this corner. I don't know if I can get that. Yeah, and a little bit of a shiny part left on this corner. It's not going to affect the strength that much. So now we hold this down here. And we're still sticking up slightly, but it's not a noticeable amount. Can you tell? You see something here? Also need to make sure that I'm not too tight on the screw back here, because it will push up it'll make the lip come up like this. Oh yeah, that's what it was. I had it just a little bit too tight. It's sitting pretty good now. And now it does sit up just a little bit higher in the front. It's like so not noticeable. We're talking about less than a millimeter of a gap over here, which is the best you can hope for, because we're trying to conform something to something else, you know, and it's never exact science. I did position this particular the slot in this top part for the ribbon cable. I positioned it in such a way that hopefully it doesn't really cover the Commodore logo, you know, script, and also clears the CD door, you know, when you go to close it. And I think I barely succeeded. The only thing else I want to do is just give myself a little bit of a surface to adhere to. So I'm just going to scratch this up a little bit in preparation of gluing. I'm going to try not to go out beyond this because it's going to be visible. So I'm going to do that next. I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see that I've scratched up the area that we're going to glue. It's really important. Oh, another thing we probably should do first is actually screw this down here. Now, it looks like the holes are pretty clean. Let's just make sure we can thread our screws into them before we actually try to get them started anyway. See that? I'm just putting the screws, just starting them in the holes. Just to get them started. Yeah, we need to have this aligned properly. I designed it so that it would butt up pretty much against the edge of this, but it's kind of a good idea to have this in its actual home. There was something I didn't really point out in the design of this. I have these screw holes raised, obviously, because you have some solder joints on the back and stuff, and you know, so we have these two, and then in the front corners I also have support. So you know, you tighten the screws down and it kind of pushes it down on the front. That's the theory of this design of compact flash anyway, with just 2 screw holes. So you know, you rely on the wisdom of their design and hope it works out okay. I mean, you have to be gentle with this stuff. Anything that you 3D print, it's not like it's injection mold printed. It's not going to be as strong as that. Yeah, so that's very nice. So we're just going to, yeah, see, the ribbon cable is sort of dictating where I'm going, and I'm glad that I did that, because this lip is actually hanging over a little bit. That's probably due to the fact that it's, again, we have flashing, we have extra material that's sticking out. So we can take our sandpaper and just run this over here a few times. Just get rid of that lip. Yeah. That's fine. Holes seem to line up. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so it's sticking out a little bit here, but it's actually because of that thing I was just talking about. This back piece was printed, you know, in this orientation, like this. And, you know, the edges are just curled up a little bit. You know, I used ABS. I love using ABS. I know that PLA doesn't curl, but I feel that ABS is better. It's stronger. Yeah, see that? Not bad, right? And, okay, so we've got the screws in there. This is how the compact flash goes in really nicely, you know. So the pressure we're doing is in these two directions, never really up and down. And that's going to be great for where we're gluing it and everything else. So I'm going to put some glue. I think I might need some assistance putting the glue in the right place. I need to move the light so I can see. Yeah, this is the folly of using black. It absorbs the light and makes it difficult for me to see, and makes it difficult for the camera to see. I need to make sure that I get some glue this way along this rail. See if I can pull this out just a little bit more. There we go. We might see some glue oozing out the sides when we're done. And I'm going to have to hold this on here for a long time. I mean, CA glue is basically super glue, but you know, it does, if you put a lot of it on there, which I just did, it will require some time to set. And we're just going to make sure our alignment is correct. And we're just going to hold this down for at least a few minutes. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So that's going to be the last thing that we need to glue. last thing we need to do, and oh, there is the fiber optic thing, and we'll do that next. So I'm just going to hold this for a while and I'll come right back. Okay, we're back. So we have, this is all done. It's all good to go, and like I said in the other part of the video, we want to pop this in like this and then push it down on the back. Yeah. Okay, so we were going to do the, get ahead of myself here. We were going to do the fiber optic part, so let me grab some of that. Okay, so here I have a piece of the fiber optic plastic filament. And like I've said many times, this hole is actually smaller than 1 millimeter currently because of, you know, the oozing effect, the first layer. So, and this piece here is upside down as it was printed. So I need to just widen this hole out. My knife is actually too dull for that. The tip broke off. Just grab another one. Could use a 1 millimeter drill bit as well. We're just rotating the blade in there, digging us a hole, same as a drill bit would. I don't think we're there yet. I'm going to take this piece off and do it over here. Yeah, it's just, next time I do a demonstration I need to consider doing it, my prints in gray so they don't swallow the freaking light. It's not too bad if I do a reflection, but the hole's right here. And I'm just making it a little bigger, bit by bit. Now the last one, I did a prototype before this, and I got a little overzealous. I wasn't checking my work all the time, and I made the hole a little too big. And it's really nice to have it just the right size because it'll hold, I mean, I don't have to bother to glue it. One thing you don't want to do is use regular super glue or plastic glue. Most glues are actually going to cause discoloration and a change in the surface of especially this stuff. I've tried to glue this stuff before and all it does is like make it milky white. We don't want to do that to this. So again, this is that plastic filament that you can get, sometimes known as fiber optic, and there's a trick to this stuff that makes it brighter. It makes it transmit light more, and that's by increasing the surface area of the tips. This tip here and this tip here. And it's super easy to do. All you have to do is melt it. If you apply heat close to this edge, it'll blossom out. So you just have to be careful not to get too close. Best done with a candle, to tell you the truth, but a match works okay too. Okay, so you can, I'm sure that I'm not going to be able to get close enough to show you that, but needless to say, I've blossomed one end. I'm not going to blossom both, otherwise I won't get it through there. So I'm going to, and then I'm going to put it through, right? And then I'm going to take it and put it in here so that we get the right length on it. And again, this is something that I wouldn't be able to, but there's an LED, an SMD LED, you know, only a millimeter in size. And we don't have to be perfectly on the LED, I found out. Mainly actually because of the blossoming, because this blossoming effect has created a dome or a hemisphere on the end of it, and it'll pick up light from many different angles, and that's kind of the key, I think, to the... And it actually polishes it, because that's what melting will do to plastic. It'll kind of give it a sheen. So you've polished it, and you've increased the surface area of it, and it'll just pick up more light. And this filament's just great, because it... So I'm actually lifting the filament all the way up, and then I'm going to put this in and snap it down, and then I'm going to push the filament back down. And another thing about this filament is it's super easy to deal with, because you just need to score it on one side and then break it off. Okay, so that would actually work right there. When you do break it, it gives a little splinter. So I'm just going to apply some heat on this end, and after I do that, it's never going to come out again, but it can wiggle, it can move up and down within there, but because I've made the hole just the right size, it kind of holds it in there. Even in the case of the one that I had that it was loose, it still worked fine, just being a little bit loose, because gravity holds it down. And so anyway, yeah, we have to be real careful here. Be real careful doing this part. I'm just getting rid of that splinter. That's it. That's all I'm worried about. I'm not worried about blossoming. The closer you get to it, the more you heat it up, the more it will blossom, or the more time you give it as well. But I just want to hold it in there. It just has enough of a blossom to hold it in there. And that's it. That's going to transmit. Can you even see that? Like at all? It's going to transmit light from the LED through this, and it's going to look like there was a little LED mounted in the corner of this. But we're making a trick. We're fooling them. Yeah, see right there. Alrighty then. So that's it right there, and the compact flash really goes in pretty well. Am I on the right side? Yeah, just slides right in there, and it comes right out. And this is how, you know, and so I'm conscientious of where my weaknesses of my design are. So of course I'm going to go like this. I'm not going to push on the whole thing. I'm going to go like that, and when I pull it out, I'm going to go like this. That's probably a good idea to do that. You know, but anyway, that's it. So let's just cover the peripherals that we have to go in the back of here. Here we have a DB23, and by the way, I sell these DB23 to VGA cords, and I sell actual full kits that include a scan doubler and everything. And we have that, and that just fits in there. I made this hole for the RGB port just super wide as I could, you know, but it doesn't matter because it sticks out. It sticks out a little bit, so pretty much anything would fit in there. And then I want to show you the how this keyboard thing works. So, you know, again, I have a cutout over here for the cord to go in, right? So, and now this is where it's key, where you actually don't want to make this any deeper, because then you'll have a problem possibly reaching or getting this in here. It's good that they have this design here, because it gives you something to grab onto and push, and it doesn't take much force, and you just slide it right in there. And there you go. So you see how well you see that? I'll just lift it up too. And that, I feel, is a cleaner design than most others. And yeah. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I have another video clip where I'm going to show me disassembling, you know, now that this is all glued together, how it's easy. Well, let's just do that now. What the heck. I used a different camera anyway, and it's easier to match the clips. So, yeah, so First thing, obviously, what am I doing? Okay, so I pull this out, pull out the compact flash, undo our screws, all 3 of them. First, starting with these 2. The screws don't want to come out, so we'll just be careful, make sure we're loose here. And then we come out with this one, and we only need to take it out halfway and we're loose, okay? Yeah. So, here's what I'm talking about, where you can just slide this out far enough. I need this propped up for you guys to see, and I can hold it. Okay, we just need to clear this piece over here. I did make this kind of tight. Ah, there we go. Just need to lift that out of there. There you go, see? And then we can come out just like that. And now it's as though we never even had the cord. And then the only other thing that we need to point out, actually, almost forgot, is our ribbon cable. Normally when you get these things, and they come assembled with everything, including compact flash adapter and card, they give you a pretty short cable. So I just want to measure this. It's actually longer than it needs to be, as you can see. It's got a lip that, you know, it's got a turn, a 180 that it needs to do. So this looks like it's about 1 foot or something. Or oh, that's annoying. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is maybe 9 inches, 8.5 inches. I bought this cable. The only cable I could find that was a length that I wanted on eBay or Amazon, I forget, was one that had 2 connectors on it. So I figured, oh, I could just cut the one off that I don't need, you know. It's a master-slave cable, 2 hard drive ribbon cable. Yeah, so that's what you do. You just cut off the part that you don't need. And I discovered that the orientation of this cable is important. Of course, you put the red side of this cable is pin number 1, and pin number 1 is here, and pin number 1 is here. But also, if you spin this cable around, it doesn't work, because the pins inside this thing, how they line up here is they're staggered. I mean, you have a flat piece of cable with only one dimension this way. There's only 1 wire, and there's just a bunch of single wires flat on a plane. Yet you have a connector here that has 2 sets. You know, you got two rows of connectors there. So how do you make that happen? Well, you do it by staggering the clips, the little push pin things or whatever that make contact, the contacts. You do it by staggering them, and that means that if you spin it around, the pins will be in the wrong place. That's what I believe is happening. It's my theory. I mean, otherwise I don't know why it wouldn't work if you reverse the cable. Even though you're still putting the red stripe on one side, it doesn't work the other way. And so here's the assembly. It's the reverse of disassembly, obviously. So I got that in there. I'm going to get this corner down here over here to our right. And lift this up and get us in there by doing a little wiggling. Yep. And then we're going to tighten our screw. Something's off. It didn't go in all nice. Yep. I think my screw is at a slight angle, despite Okay. And the lid with our little LED fiber optic piece. Pops that in there. Slides that in there. And there we have it. Yep, and that's the way it works. Just a view from like that. Yeah, pretty good. I like it.